Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome back to another Mortal Kombat 11 video. Now in today's topic and discussion, unlike other videos on my channel where I typically talk about story from more of a narrative based perspective and really discuss what's fundamentally going on with a character, in today's video I wanted to do a somewhat review of the Kombat Pack and cover the characters within it. So in this video, I will be going from character to character, talking about what makes them unique, whether or not I thought they were a great addition to this Kombat Pack or not, depending on who they are, and somewhat rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. This is all 100% subjective to me. Your opinions can 110% be different to mine, and if anything, I actually encourage it. So by the end of this video, after I finish going from character to character, or what makes them actually interesting, I want you down in the comments below to rate each character from your own personal opinion, and then rate the overall Kombat Pack as a whole. Because if there's anything I really do love, is that I like stirring conversation, and I believe now that we're coming up to almost a year into Mortal Kombat 11's lifespan, now is definitely time to look at the overall package, talk about what's really good, and talk about what's really bad within the contents of the Kombat Pack. Because I understand that there are many individuals that didn't buy the game on release who are purposely waiting for the Game of the Year edition, something that I believe we can all expect to see at some point later this year. So without any further ado, let's get on to reviewing the Kombat Pack, and starting off with its first DLC character, Shang Tsung. Now Shang Tsung is a fantastic addition to the Kombat Pack, the iconic boss of the first game, and someone who does have a long legacy in the Mortal Kombat series. Shang is a great pick. He's a villain character that fans love to hate, and what better way of actually making people get behind this DLC character than having Kerry Tagawa be scanned for him. So this pays homage to the original Mortal Kombat movie, as well as Kerry Tagawa himself, as he is a rather old individual at this point in time, but really it's such a nice nod to longtime fans, as Kerry Tagawa's charisma is just so infectious. You can't help but admire how he puts everything into a role, even if he is hamming it up super hard.
Your brother's soul is mine.
So in terms of DLC choice, very good one, as he wasn't present in Mortal Kombat X2, so extra brownie points. In terms of customization, he has some pretty damn incredible skins and rather spectacular bits of gear. It's very gothic and does go hand in hand with what the character's all about. Now outside of just what's going on for more of a legacy based perspective and visual perspective, how exactly does Shang Tsung play? Well, this is slightly where the cracks somewhat do show, but for the sake of MK11 being MK11, he does fit into the game. You see, Shang Tsung isn't exactly the most combo-centric character in the game. For the most part, he is a keep-away character, using ground eruption and projectiles in order to zone out his opponent, which isn't exactly the most exciting thing in the world to watch, but it's moves that we've seen Shang Tsung have before, so it's not exactly anything quite new. If you want more of a combo-centric looking moveset, then you have the option to use the ninjas he does have. You see, I know some people love this and some people hate this, so I'm going to quickly touch on why people feel this way, and how I kind of feel about it. For the most part, I think it is a great idea that Shang Tsung has the ability to use moves of characters that aren't in the game. Although those characters themselves haven't made the cut, it's at least nice to see them be referenced in one way, shape and form, then be completely excluded from the game in its entirety. But in also saying that, it would be nice to see those characters actually be in the game. It's a bit of a mixed bag when I talk about this, because as much as I'd love to see Smoke or Rain return, I don't see the likelihood of that being exceptionally high. So it's nice to have a nod to them in some way, shape and form. It just sucks that the likelihood of them making it in now isn't too great. But one thing I do wish to add on to this, and I was rather surprised at how this was done, was that on the game's release, there were only 2 tournament variations for each character, and for some reason, they weren't a variation until the game was updated, and variation 3s were kind of a thing. So it was a kind of a strange selling point in the trailer, with how ninja heavy it was, but at least we do have them as one of the tournament variations now. Now if I were to rate Shang Tsung on a scale of 1 to 10, with 5 being average, I'm actually going to rate Shang Tsung like a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. The reason why I'm giving him quite a high ranking is because of the legacy the character has, the fact they were able to get the likeness of Kerry Tagawa, as well as get him to voice the character, how he's able to retain his legacy based moveset, which not a lot of characters actually do have in 11, as well as have a few nods and homages to some other ninjas that didn't make the cut. The only thing that's somewhat holding the character back is the style of gameplay that he's in. You see, MK11 11's far slower than that of X. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In terms of preference, I prefer games with a little bit more explosive flair. I like to see my combos a bit more. Shang Tsung's definitely more on the keep away side of things, which is why he doesn't score like a perfect number, but his animations look fantastic in game, and you get to see some really incredible stuff when the ninjas are actually used. Anyway, now that we've finished covering Shang Tsung, let's get on to the next DLC character. That, of course, being Nightwolf. I'm not really a big Nightwolf fan, but I always felt like he was a nice inclusion on any roster in a Mortal Kombat game. In Mortal Kombat 9, he really did grow on me. He had an incredible and amazing moveset, and from more of a story-based perspective, he did the noble thing by sacrificing his own life in order to take down a super-powered Sindel. So character earned my respect. He's an OG fan favorite of the series, coming from the original timeline, and really, I feel, has a place in all fans' hearts. Now, how exactly does he fare? Well, honestly, Nightwolf's incredible. In terms of moveset, visually he looks amazing. One of my favorite aspects about this character is the fact that you have his human counterpart as well as his revenant counterpart. Both look great. And I mean, all of the gear you can equip to him does look fantastic. Visually, he's spectacular. Though he isn't a bulky powerhouse, he is a rather threatening individual, being broad and stoic. So again, this is definitely a character that fans have been asking for, and it was really nice to see his inclusion here, as he made a small cameo in Mortal Kombat X and was absent in the game itself. So seeing his return here was pretty incredible. Plus, on top of this, his moveset and arsenal are explosive as hell. The Rising Tomahawk's a great combo extend. I love that his main weapon is tied into his moveset, and what I thought was a really nice touch here was his ability to summon animal spirits. So he really does embody the wise shaman-esque archetype that's always somewhat eluded Nightwolf as a character, because we've always seen him as a fighter. So it's nice to see this be tied into a moveset to pay homage to his heritage and show a little bit more character from him, as I do feel that's something that Nightwolf has somewhat lacked. So overall, I think Nightwolf is the full package. For me personally, very combo-centric, legacy-based character, visually intimidating, and he just really does feel like a complete character. So I'm probably gonna give the character a 9. I would give him a 10, but I don't believe there's ever such thing as a perfect character. But Nightwolf ticks a lot of boxes that personally appeal to me, and I love his overall redesign, as well as how he does play in game. Anyway, with that being said, let's get on to the next character, and although I was initially extremely excited for him, I was rather disappointed with the end result. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am of course talking about the Terminator T-800 unit. Now, upon the Kombat Pack's reveal, this was definitely the guest character that I was the most excited for. I grew up on Terminator 1 and 2. It's a very important part of my childhood, so you know, the inclusion of this character was kind of important to me, and because of this, I had my expectations rather high. Arnie could be seen as a bit of a childhood hero of mine. I really enjoyed a majority of his films, and as a young adult even now, I can go back and appreciate a lot of the really dumb, cheesy and hammy stuff he's done.
Put that cookie down!
So the Terminator's inclusion in the Kombat Pack was certainly something I was looking forward to. However, I don't know if it's my expectations being too high for this one, but I definitely didn't feel like the Terminator delivered. Now visually, it looks like Arnie, an intimidating juggernaut, with one being present day Arnie to tie into Terminator Dark Fate, and the other one somewhat being a homage to Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Either way, I set the bar rather high for the character, and I really did want them to deliver. But unfortunately, the reality is that Terminator just didn't feel like Terminator. I didn't really have a move set in mind for the character, but knowing the creative team behind NRS, I was expecting something quite unique, but instead, it felt like a somewhat repackaging of Jason. Now, NRS do have a reputation for reusing assets, which is something I'm actually perfectly fine with. I don't mind them reusing assets, as long as it's not a carbon copy of another character. I like unique and different spins on characters, but Terminator for the most part shares a lot of similarities with Jason from Mortal Kombat X. They definitely are not the same, but they share too many similarities, and because of this, being a fan of Terminator, I felt like I was kind of robbed of a proper portrayal of the Terminator character as a fighter. The thing is, I enjoy Jason in Mortal Kombat X, but I just wanted something new, and most importantly, something quite refreshing. I definitely didn't get it here, and somewhat to add insult to injury here, they had an Arnie impersonator come in to do his lines, which I can kind of get because I imagine hiring someone like Arnie would be very expensive, but even then then the impersonator wasn't that good. There are definitely lines that do sound flat, and you can definitely tell it's not him. In terms of moveset, I'm pretty sure I've covered it. Feels a little bit too much like Jason for his own good. I do, however, like that a strong aspect of his character is him being a grappler, as I am a sucker for those characters, and I do like the grenades he does have. So again, there's aspects to him that doesn't play like Jason, but it just feels like the core moveset exists for someone else. In terms of customization, it is somewhat underwhelming, as you're only changing his sunglasses, his shotgun, and the grenades under his belt, but they're not big major details or changes. So again, rather underwhelming. So to somewhat cap it off, a positive is the likeness of Arnie, a thumbs down is the heavy reuse of Jason's moves, lines do sound flat, overall costumes do look good, but the customization isn't fantastic. The lack of a good impersonator definitely does affect him, so overall Terminator was a rather disappointing inclusion for me. There's most likely a lot of bias here at my end, and I probably set the bar a little bit too high for myself, but I can't help but feel like they could have done so much more here. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate him a 4 out of 10. Below average, as it's stuff we have seen before, and a lack of creativity that went into this character compared to Shang Tsung and Nightwolf and even the other characters that I will be talking about kind of makes me feel rather sad considering how much I love Terminator. But anyway, let's jump on to our next character, and one that was damn controversial amongst the community, Sindel. Now I do not wish to drag this out, so let's just talk about the elephant in the room. The characterization of Sindel in Mortal Kombat 11 is a drastic change to that of the original continuity. In the original timeline, she was a caring mother for Kitana, the fearless leader of Edenia, and a strong force on the side of good. She was basically one of the few people to stand up against Shao Kahn and take her own life in order to save others from his conquest. Because of this, it made her a somewhat noble and strong figure. In Mortal Kombat 11, they kind of scrap all of that. This depiction of the character is far more villainous and ruthless in nature. Instead of Shao Kahn killing King Jared and kidnapping Sindel and Kitana, we learned that's in fact Sindel who's betrayed Jared, sticking a knife through his heart and abandoning Edenia for conquest and power. So she, by all intents and purposes, is just as ruthless as that of Shao Kahn. Now this is quite interesting in itself, because the idea of this is actually quite good. However, this 110% goes against what Sindel is all about. I understand wanting to retell and reboot characters and have a somewhat different take on what they're all about. It can be quite refreshing and add character to them that they kind of lack, which again could be beneficial. This definitely did not do that. This did not do that at all. If anything, it somewhat tainted her own release, as Sindel just didn't seem like Sindel. This wasn't the character that people would become accustomed to, and because of that, many were understandably unhappy. So that's all I have to really say about Sindel in terms of origin story right now. I've already made 2 or 3 videos on the topic. Please do check those out. I do not wish to rehash myself here, as I'm fairly sure all of you know how I feel about this. Now, despite the change in origin, how is she in game? How does she look? How does she play? Now, honestly, I'm gonna let a little bit of my bias show here. Sindel is definitely my favorite character out of the Kombat Pack. In terms of visual designs, she looks absolutely gorgeous. Her Revenant design looks fantastic, her human design's awesome. I love the fact that in her customizables you can change her boots, her Naginata, and even her hair. Her tournament variations are extremely cool to watch and work. I love that one of them actually has float cancels, and I love how they were able to tie the Banshee Scream into a core moveset so well. All of them are extremely practical, and it made me kind of a Sindel player. All her combos are great to watch. I think as an overall package, she is extremely solid. Visually, she looks great, she plays extremely well. The gear she has that you can change is fantastic. I absolutely adore what they've done with her moveset, and I love how they've tied the Naginata into it. Overall, I think that Sindel is a solid package, and definitely the character I personally enjoyed the most out of the Kombat Pack. The only thing that kind of holds her back is unfortunately how they've tainted her backstory, so I sadly do have to hear about it during verbal exchanges before matches. So again, if I were to rate her on a scale of 1 to 10, it would probably be an 8.5, kind of a 9, but that's definitely some form of bias at my end. I just overall think she's a great character. Just what is holding her back is how they've written her. Now in terms of gameplay, that's not a big thing, but as someone who appreciates the universe and the gameplay, it's definitely something I cannot ignore, especially being a content creator that focuses on talking about the background of characters all the way up from their first appearance up until their final appearance. So yes, that's everything I do have to say about Sindel. So this brings us on to our final 2 characters, and both have a considerably large fan base behind them. Now let's talk about the first one, and one I think everyone wasn't really excited for when he was revealed, Joker. Now despite pretty much everyone not being a fan of his design in the Kombat Pack, as he did look like a creator character from GTA 5 Online, everyone was rather hesitant hesitant with actually wanting to touch the character, but it definitely does seem like due to the success of the Joaquin Phoenix film, people were kind of attracted to what the Joker was now about, as the film did receive a lot of praise. And I mean, if there was ever a DC villain that would fit into a Mortal Kombat game, Joker is definitely that character, as he really does embody the idea of chaos and anarchy. Now, it must be said right out the gate, but upon his reveal in the trailer, we saw a very refurbished looking Joker, as he looked far more polished than that of his Kombat Pack trailer reveal, and the creativity put behind his moveset was honestly astonishing. The idea of being able to swing someone in a wheelchair and then special cancel into a move is absolutely absurd, but the Joker makes it work, and that's one thing I absolutely adore about it. I'm not gonna lie, the Joker was the character I was excited about the least in the Kombat Pack. Due to the fact that I feel like the character's been kind of oversaturated, my relationship with him has somewhat been sour, but even I can't deny that his overall design looks fantastic. His moveset is just incredible. NRS really went the extra mile here to give us something that none of us could have anticipated. Many of us expected him to play like his Injustice 2 counterpart. As I did mention earlier, NRS do have a habit of reusing assets, but it seems like here they just wanted to give us something new, so I was pleasantly surprised with what we saw with the Joker. A good Joker behind the steering wheel is very fun to watch, especially when he has his boxing gloves equipped. In terms of customization as well, just outside of his gameplay, he has some pretty wacky and interesting costumes. Again, props to the NRS team for really kind of going all out with this one, as many were rather hesitant about his inclusion. The only gripe I could have with the Joker is that I wish there were more nods to the costumes he had in the comics, as he's had some pretty damn memorable ones that unfortunately didn't make it into the game. And of course, we didn't have Mark Hamill voice acting him, but that's because I believe Hamill has retired from the role and is now being replaced by Richard Epcar. No disrespect to Richard Epcar, I think he did a fantastic job with what he had. It's just if I were to pick between the two, I'm pretty sure everyone would go for Hamill. But overall, I feel like he's a fantastic character. Again, NRS went that extra mile, so I was pleasantly pleased with his inclusion here. I'm not a Joker fan by any means, but I gotta say, they did a fantastic job of what they had here. So good stuff, NRS. And if I were to rate him on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give him a 9. I was really pleased with how he turned out. NRS definitely exceeded my expectations and proved me wrong with how I felt about the character, so that's something I'm actually very happy about. Now let's get on to our final character, a character that everyone's kind of been waiting for, Spawn. Now Spawn has been in high demand for a very long amount of time, and thus because of this, people had a lot of expectations for the character to meet. So now that we're at the end of the Kombat Pack, he's finally been released, and he's finally on a Mortal Kombat game, did he meet the hype? Honestly, yeah, he actually kind of did. You see, fans have been asking for Spawn all the way back since Mortal Kombat 9, and with every game from that point onwards, the demand for him became bigger and bigger, and thus for Mortal Kombat 11, it was finally confirmed that he would make the roster, and my oh my, does he look fantastic. In terms of design, he looks incredible. The texture on the symbiotic suit looks absolutely fantastic. To cap this off in terms of design, this is the best that Spawn's ever looked in a game. He looks absolutely incredible, and I absolutely adore all of his customization options. My favorite of them all is the fact you get to customize his damn cape, man. That's a really nice touch, since chains and whips and his cape are all actually part of his character. They can somewhat be seen as an extension of him, and thus because of this, I do like this idea. Visually, he is incredible, and I mean, they got Keith David to do the voiceover, a man whose voice is smooth like butter, and again is a homage and nod back to the very old HBO series, which really is a good adaptation of the series. It's understandably held up in very high regard, and I can see why, as I have watched it. I do recommend people take a look into that, as you will most certainly not be disappointed. But now that we've talked about the voice acting, his visual design, how does he play? Well, honestly, Spawn is kind of spectacular in this game. He feels unique with the strings he has, being able to utilize his chains and cape within his own moveset, again showing it as an extension of his physical being. I think what really allows Spawn to break the mold here is some of the special moves he does have at hand, because he kind of breaks the game in that respect. You see, they wanted to go kind of all out here with him and kind of show how ridiculous this character is, having a move that destroys breakaway, having a special move that enables easy crushing blows, and having the ability to use his fatal blow above 30%. Now, the installs aren't tournament variations, but again, it's still a really nice touch, as they clearly wanted to add a lot of cinematic flair to this character, and they definitely didn't falter in that respect. He's a great addition to the roster, and I really do feel like they nailed his character extremely well for Mortal Kombat 11. Although I don't believe there is a perfect character, Spawn sure as hell does take the bell for a 10. He feels unique, he feels different, and he feels kind of refreshing. Visually, he's incredible, and I definitely do feel like they've done a good job with Spawn Spawn for this game. But now that we've gone through the entirety of the combat pack from character to character, what are my overall thoughts on this combat pack? Well, honestly, as a whole, it is pretty damn good. The 3 returning legacy characters for Mortal Kombat have been done justice. They all play extremely well, and they have done a really good job with their already existing movesets by changing and expanding on a lot of ideas that already existed. I think they've done a fantastic job with them. I feel like Spawn has been done justice. He's been in demand for a very long amount of time, so props to NRS for doing this. My same thoughts here can be applied to the Joker. The creativity they put behind him is phenomenal, and I do appreciate that they didn't rehash his moveset, which brings us on to Terminator. Unfortunately, this is one I cannot give them praise for. I really wanted him to be his own thing, but I just didn't get it here, which is a shame for the most part. So overall, I do feel like the contents of the combat pack is actually very good. However, the one gripe that I do have with the combat pack isn't so much the characters, but the contents of it as a whole. You see, I'm all for guest characters, but I feel like half of the combat pack being guest characters and only half being returning characters leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, especially when it's DLC for Mortal Kombat. In the future, I ideally would like 4 Mortal Kombat characters and at most 2 guest characters. I know this may not happen as cross promotion is a big thing, but I bought a Mortal Kombat game for a Mortal Kombat game. I like a lot of the characters within the universe. I appreciate the inclusion of guest characters as long as they do fit the role, but in an ideal world I would like to see some other characters be brought forward. But yes, that's my review of the combat pack as a whole. I wanted to do this and have a proper talk about the contents because we're coming up to the 1-year anniversary of the game. I feel like it's definitely worth me voicing my thoughts on the combat pack to kind of let you all know where I stand on it as a whole, what do I think of each character, and what do I feel are the best steps moving forward. Now in the description below, let me know what are your thoughts on the combat pack. What characters did you really enjoy? Or what do you think of the pack as a whole? Are you happy with what they've given us? Or would you have some tweaks here and there? Please do comment down below. Remember, I do like stirring conversation, and everyone's opinion is different, so please do voice them down in the comments below, as I really do enjoy listening to what all of you have to say. But now, as always guys, before this video wraps up, if possible let's try getting it to about 500 likes, as it's a great way of supporting this channel, and also do not forget to tick that bell, as it will keep you up to date with everything that's going on with the channel. So yeah guys, as always, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I'll see you all next time.